Oh, yeah. Welcome in, everybody. This is Cream of the Crop, a fantasy hockey podcast presented by Apples and Ginos. Thank you, Apples and Ginos, for the presentation. I'm your host, Blake Creamer. Please follow me over on Twitter/X. Oh, my God, X. What the hell? It's at Blake Creamer AG. Also, check out the Apples and Ginos Discord. Link is in the description. We're getting to biz on the regular. Lots of good conversations in there. So you got to do that. Also, I'm going to continue my crusade here to get you to rate the pod. We are close to 100 ratings on Spotify, and that feels nice. All right, that's really nice. So, you got to get your biscuits over there. Give us a 5-star. Please help me out. All right. Today, I'm going to be continuing the ADP, the average draft position battle series with another extremely worthy opponent. I got Michael Amato here from Sportsnet, and he's the managing editor over at goaliepost.com. This man cares about your fantasy team. All right. Michael, did you rate the pod?
I've not rated the pod yet, but we'll see how this goes, and then I might do it after.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, let's put our money where our mouth is, buddy. How was your summer?
It's been good, busy, but yeah, enjoying the nice weather before it gets extremely cold again. So
yeah, for sure. Have you been doing lots of fantasy stuff, or have you kind of been able to shut your brain off a little bit from this stuff?
A little bit, just a few kind of off-season pieces, some free agency stuff, obviously. But the big thing is I just kind of work on my rankings piece throughout the summer, like a little bit at a time. It's kind of a beast. So it's a pretty big doc with like 250 players and like a little blurb for each. So I just plug away on that a little bit every day. And it's a good way to kind of like prepare for next season as well.
Yeah, that's so true. I'm doing some projections this season with Nate. He always does his, and he's kind of helping me out with that. But yeah, exactly, buddy. Well, like I've been chipping away, but then we had our first projections episode here on Apples and Ginos, which was just released, and I wasn't even close to where I needed to be. So I literally spent like 8 hours in a day just doing hockey projections. It was like my brain was just mashed. I had like a stabbing pain behind my eye here. But dude, I don't know about you, but when I'm projecting those players, like I just have such a good pulse, I feel like, on what's going on with these players. Like it's so helpful. I've never done that before. This is the first time. So I know, is that sort of your experience as well?
Yeah, for sure. Like I've done it for a couple of years. I used to do a lot of goalie rankings, and the last couple of years I've done like a 250 overall players. And I think it is a really good way to prepare. And I always kind of tell people, even if you're not sort of in the business of fantasy hockey and you're just, you have your own league, it's good to sort of build your own rankings based on your league categories. It will help you really prepare for your draft.
Yeah, absolutely, buddy. When do you release your rankings?
I'll probably be in a couple weeks, early September, I think. So,
maybe offline. You give me the advanced copy. All right.
Yeah,
I need a little bit of help. All right. So
for sure,
yeah, we'll talk. We'll take that offline. All right, buddy. We're here. We're not here for pleasantries. All right. We're here to do battle. All right. This is serious business. All right. So I'll just explain the premise of the show very quickly. I did do one of these already, an ADP battle, and we're doing some more. All right. So basically, we're going to be looking at players at a certain point in the draft. We're going to have 2 players, and Michael and I are basically just going to decide who are we taking and why. All right. And just, for the future, there's a right answer and a wrong answer. All right. So, we'll just keep that in mind as we're going. No, that's a great way to start a podcast. Just get your guests, just piss them off. Right. Okay. So as a caveat for this as well, we'll be doing standard points league scoring. I didn't say that to you, Michael, but it's not going to make a difference, I don't think, in your picks here. Just standard points league scoring with some minor banger weighting, nothing crazy. No PIMs, no face-offs, no plus-minus. Get the hell out of my sight. Who the hell puts plus-minus in a league? Oh, God. I lost. I say this all the time, but I literally lost a league last year plus-minus. I smoked this guy offensively. Plus-minus? What the?
It's out there, man. Some leagues have it. I'm not a huge plus minus fan. I hear you on that. I do like face-offs though. I like face-off wins. I don't know.
It changes the game. That's something I have in a couple Cats leagues, and I'm always like, why is this guy so high? I'm like, oh, there you go. Like Vincent Trocheck was like 26 overall. Like,
yeah.
Okay. That, I guess I'll take him in the 3rd round next time. But yeah. All right. Well, let's get to business here. So Michael, you ready to do battle?
Let's do it.
Let the battle begin. Did you ever watch Iron Chef on that guy, like the original Iron Chef? You know what I'm talking about, where the guy just yells like he says something. I don't know what he's saying, but I wish I had that clip. I might clip that and put it in here just kind of for the future. You know what I mean?
Nice. Yeah, it's a good call. I've seen it before. Yeah.
All right, well, there you go. Or we can do the new one, a la cuisine. Maybe we'll do that. That doesn't make any sense, but okay, let's carry on. All right, the battle has begun. Let's get to business. Okay, so for the first one, Michael, I've been doing mock drafts, and this is kind of a decision I've come across a few times. Round one, pick number 4. So we're assuming that we got McDavid, Draisaitl, McKinnon are probably your 1, 2, 3 there. Draisaitl, McKinnon, whatever. But at number 4, you're staring down Austin Matthews or David Pastrnak. What are you thinking? What are you doing? Give us your thoughts.
I'm probably going David Pastrnak. I know obviously the Bruins have maybe lost more talent than anyone this summer. Some really key players too. Their top 2 centers, a bunch of guys that they grabbed last year at the deadline, like Bertuzzi and Orlov. I think some people might be a little bit concerned about Pastrnak for that, but I think he's his own talent. He's his own play driver. Over 400 shots last year, 60 goals, incredible. And I think with Matthews, I kind of think he's might end up being a little bit of a steal in some drafts this year. I could see him dropping to 8 or 9 in some leagues, just because, he's kind of a little having some injury issues now. He probably over his career, he's probably averaging, I haven't done the math, but I want to say maybe 8 to 10 games missed a season, right? Something like that.
Yeah.
So that kind of plays a factor. And yeah, I think there's just a lot of other emerging players this year, whether it's Jack Hughes or Jason Robertson, that maybe some people will take over him potentially. But I don't think you can go really wrong with Matthews either. But for those reasons, I'd probably just stick with Pastrnak. I think the shot volume and just the goal scoring, I Matthews missing maybe a bit of time. I think I'd probably give Pastrnak the edge.
Yeah, that's interesting, my man. What just right off the top, do you draft with injuries in mind? Is that something you kind of keep in mind? Because I'm only mentioning it because we were just having an interesting discussion on our Discord here at Apples and Ginos about projecting injuries to some degree. Yep. And there's been some disagreements there. I'm just wondering where you're at with that. Do you kind of bake that into your projections and things?
I definitely do, especially over a longer kind of sample size. So if you look at, obviously if someone misses 5 or 6 games 1 year and they've been mainly healthy over a 6-7 year career, you're not really going to pay too much attention to that. But I was looking at Matthews' career games played numbers, and yeah, it probably averages out to 8 to 10 missed games a season, and that's probably in fantasy 3 weeks you're not going to have them for. If you're in a head-to-head league, that's fairly relevant. Again, I don't think you're going to be oh, I'm not going to draft Austin Matthews because he might miss 8 games, but if you're debating between him and a player like Pastrnak, yeah, I think, that's where it comes into play, right? Because you have a lot of players that, are super talented, but yeah, they do have an injury history, right? And I think, even someone let's say Erik Karlsson, right? Has the incredible year last year, pretty much stays healthy the whole season. But if you look at his last 5-6 years, what's the outlier? It's last season, right? So is he more likely to duplicate last season at 33 years old, or is he more likely to start struggling with some injuries again, right? It's probably the injuries. So yeah, I think it's not a be all and end all, but you definitely want to project, I always call it durability, right? How often are they missing games, and, are they kind of in the lineup all the time? Can you count on them? That's a big thing, right? Because, a player super talented that's taking up an IR spot is not really that helpful to you.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. Yeah, I always say on this pod, I don't draft for injuries. And when I'm projecting, I project for an 82 game pace. Just we're looking at per game totals. I just find that's an easier way to kind of level the playing field. But I don't know, it's hard. I think to your point, I really if you're 50-50, you got 2 guys, I'm going to take the guy that's less injury prone 100 times out of 100. Yeah. That just makes sense to me. Mm-hmm. I think that to me is where I'm definitely baking in some injury stuff. But other than that, I think you would miss out on performances guys like Malkin or even Crosby, maybe slipped a little bit last year. Malkin playing 82 games. What the hell is that? You know, it's crazy. He probably won people at their leagues, because they're getting him in the 7th round or something, and he's just flying out there. So I don't know. It's an interesting piece. It's something I'm just kind of noodling with, moving forward, but I don't know. I'm digressing. Injury talk. Oh God, just everybody stay healthy. Come on. What are you doing? I can't believe there's not more injuries. Actually, these guys are freaking huge and they're flying around out there. Oh my God. Yeah, anyways, I'm going off on that. All right. So you're taking Pasta. He's cooking something up. We know that. I'm taking big Austin Matthews, that mustache beauty. Obviously, Pasta kicked the hell out of Matthews last season in fantasy. There's no question there. Special season for Boston and for Pasta. But caveat here, I think both players absolutely deserve this ranking. Like, there's not a wrong choice here. If you take Pasta or Matthews, like, they're very comparable, and that's why I kind of chose them here, because they're actually similar players as well, like with their shot generation, their chance generation. So you're off to an amazing start. You get one of these studs. But I've said it before too, like, goals to me are something that it's some of the hardest stuff to get goals. So that's why Matthews and Pasta are guys that I target a lot in this first round. If I can, they're always on my radar. But yeah, leaning Matthews. And I'll just give you my reasoning really quick. A big factor for me is team trajectory. And I know you mentioned a little bit about Boston kind of losing all that talent. I personally don't think that's going to affect Pasta very much, because in fact, he'll probably be like, he might even get more ice time because of it. Like, there could be some benefits for David Pastrnak there with all that talent leaving. But I mean, his on-ice shooting percentage could go down a little bit. That's a potential. But he is going to be the guy. And I just think Toronto is a team on the rise with a better offensive outcome next season. So when I dug into Matthews and Pasta, Matthews' IPP, his luck metrics, his IPP and his shooting percentage, way down, like career lows in some cases, right? So those are the luck metrics that we call it here. And then conversely, Pasta was cooking. He had career highs with his IPP and his shooting percentage, right? So I think it's going to kind of, like, maybe balance out a little bit. And if that's the case, I'd rather go with a team that I'm a little bit more confident in. And like you said, with Matthews' injuries, like, he strikes me as a kind of guy that plays through injuries. Like, just sit out, buddy. Like, get your wrists sorted. You're a shooter. Like, sit the hell out and then come back when you're ready to go, right? Like, but he seems to me like a guy that just toughs it out until he can't anymore.
Well, that's the other thing, like, we didn't really mention, right? Like, so, like, yeah, let's say he misses, average of 8 games a year, but are there another 10 to 12 games where he's not 100% that he's playing, and those are slightly hurting his numbers too, right? Like, I think last year that was potentially the case. I think some of his numbers being down were partially due to injury. But yeah, like, you make a good point. Like, as I mentioned earlier, I think Matthews might end up falling a couple spots in drafts, outside the top 5, even in some. And I think, like you said, he could end up being a steal, because if he doesn't miss any time, and if, he starts clicking again, it's going to be huge numbers for you. And I think the other thing too is, like, Tyler Bertuzzi is probably going to be on that line. Who I think is an upgrade from Michael Bunting, playing with him in Marner. So, there's that to factor in as well.
Yeah, it's Bertuzzi or it's Maximus Domius. I mean, one of those legends, right? I think those are both upgrades on the bunt cake. Yeah. Michael Bunting, get the hell out of my sight. So, I like that very much. That top 6 there in Toronto looks a lot better to me. What was I going to say? Both guys, they kind of showed out as well in advanced metrics. We like shot and chance generation. They're obscene. So that's a bit of a wash, but I just think it comes down to a minor regression from Pasta, a minor, bounce back for Matthews. And that's kind of why I'm going there. I also think I have a bit more confidence in Toronto's power play. And lastly, sorry, I keep going off on this, but I have more confidence in Matthews' deployment as well. Like, he's getting over 20 minutes, and that's ironclad. Whereas Pasta, he was down at 1930 last season. That might go up, but I mean, we don't know, right? So, slightly into Matthews, but I love me some Pasta as well. Pasta Fasul. All right. They're both great players. I had Pasta last year, rode him to 4 third-place victories. Oh, yeah. Thank you, Pasta. Love that. All right. Let's move on. Next one we're going to talk about, we're in round 2, and we've got pick 18. We're loving life. Okay. Where are you going? Timmy Stützle, Big Timmy Stutz, or Mitch Marner? Where are you going and why? What's up?
Well, it's going to be interesting. As a Leafs fan, I've taken a Bruin.
You took Pasta?
I've taken a Bruin over Matthews, and now I'm going to take Stützle over Marner. It's an interesting one. I know. I will confess, this is the one pick that I probably put a little more weight into, like, the banger categories. I know you mentioned that not to factor it in, but that's one where I kind of looked at Stützle. Like, I actually think the disparity in points between him and Marner is probably not going to be that great. I think he only had 9 or 10 fewer points than Marner last year. But but I just think his other, like, I think his shots are better. I think, obviously, like, things like hits, like, he's really has sneaky value for hits.
Big time.
I've got him on my team. He's definitely going to be a keeper for me. He's got pretty good all around category coverage. And I think the Sens have a really good top six again. I think it's pretty solid. So I think overall, if you're in it, completely straight points league, yeah, Marner's probably going to get a handful more points than Stützle for sure. But I think more in kind of multi-cat leagues, I think Stützle might be the better all-around player.
Yeah, absolutely. In Cats leagues, I don't think there's a question. I think you got to go Timmy Stutz. And even in a points league with banger weighting, like that's why it's closer to me, right?
Yep.
That's why these players to me are comparable. And on Ottawa in general, like that's a team I'm definitely interested in fantasy wise because their power play was great last year, but their even strength numbers were stupid low. Like
Yeah.
their conversion was ridiculous. So to me, there's going to be some positive regression there just for all of their players, right? You're looking at Stützle, Norris, Giroux, all these guys, they look like crap at even strength or just their conversion rates, right? So I think there's some regression coming there for Timmy Stütz.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, you go. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I think a big factor too was like Josh Norris missing most of the season last year. Like I really think that impacted their top six. I think they had to move a lot of stuff around. I think if he's healthy this year, like overall, I think they could be a lot better.
Yeah, I think Ottawa's going to be a lot better. So you got Norris back. You got a full season of Jacob Chychrun, which is nice. And you got Jonas Korpisalo, who I actually really like in net there. I think he's a great 0G candidate this season. But, I liked him a lot in LA. We'll see what happens in Ottawa. But yeah, that said, I'm taking your boy, Mitchell Marner. Oh, yeah. It's crazy. I thought you were going to take the Leafs here. So, I was a bit surprised, but this is similar to Matthew's pasta choice to me. I think it's close. And at pick 18, I think for me, Marner is the safer pick. And I like safe in the first quarter of the draft. Like, it's not like Timmy Stütz is not a big swing, nothing like that. Like, his floor is ridiculous because of the ice time and also his trajectory. Like he's a young guy. He's only 21. He's going to pop off and he's going to be good for a long time. So, but to me, like, Stütz had big numbers last season, but he also had crazy deployment, right? He averaged 21-16 average time on ice. And I'm not sure that he gets that next season, right? Because you mentioned Josh Norris, he was out for the season. Like they legit had no 2C in Ottawa.
Yeah.
So now, Stützle, just get out, just stay out there, man. No, right? Now you got Josh Norris, who's a very legitimate player in his own right. So I think Stützle's ice time could go down a bit and nothing huge, right? In ice time. But what if it goes down to 19 minutes? That's like 2 minutes right off the top. And to me, Stützle is not really a great shot generator or chance generator. So if you take ice time away, the output goes down, right? Potentially. Unless he's, just stays crazy efficient, which he might be, right? He's still a young guy. We don't exactly know. But that's why I lean a little bit towards Marner because, and I'm not talking Yang on Timmy Stütz. I would never do that. All right. He's a lovely person, just a nice man. All right. But I think Marner is safer. He's a 100-point guy. I think, he's proven that over the years, right? Plus his deployment, just like Matthews, solid as a rock. All right. This guy's, 21 minutes average time on ice. He's averaged 20 minutes 20 minutes a game for over 4 seasons. And I think his power play numbers are a bit safer as well, right? That's an established power play there in Toronto. They know what the hell they're doing. And if I'm saying Matthews is going to bounce back, then I think Marner is probably going to bounce, or he's going to get over 100 points in my opinion. And like you said, Timmy bangs. So in a Cats league, we got to take that man. But I'm feeling the Leafs this season. I don't know. I that's kind of funny because the Leafs are your team. And if you were doing this to me and giving me Canucks, I'd probably be choosing the other guys too, because I'm just pissed. I'm like, get the hell out of here. You're disappointing me every season. But yeah, I like the Leafs this season, Matthews and Marner in particular.
Yeah, I always liked them in the regular season for fantasy. Like you can't argue with the Leafs the last 5 years in the regular season, but yeah. Playoffs is another story, but for fantasy, yeah, they're great.
I was right there with you because that's the team I was excited about in the playoffs. And what the hell? Oh my God. They got to do something, man. Toronto and Edmonton. Those are two teams I don't particularly like, but I want to see them win. Like I want to stop hearing that stupid narrative. Like get these guys into the big games and let's see what's what. But I don't know. Austin Matthews, it might be time to shave the mustache, my bud. Let's see. It's getting a little greasy. All right, let's move on. All right, next one we're looking at, we're all the way to round 5. All right, it's pick 60, and I think we're reaching a little bit here. We got Jordan Kyrou or John Gaudreau. Pick 60, round 5. Who you taking? What do you think, Michael?
I'm going with Goudreau. I think he'll be overlooked a little bit this year because his points took a huge drop. Obviously, I think he went from 115 to 74. But I actually think 74 was pretty impressive on that Columbus team. They had a ton of injuries last year. He didn't have that much talent to play with for a lot of the year. And I think, again, fingers crossed, if Line stays healthy, like they could build a pretty good connection there, right? And I think they have a lot of young players that could start taking some steps this year, whether it's like Kent Johnson or Marchenko. We'll see what Fantilli does. I think, that might be a pretty good spot for him if he was able to put up 74 points last year in a pretty sort of bleak situation. I'd like to see what he does. I think Kyrou is, I like him. I had him last year on my team in my main league, and he was really good. Again, hopefully you don't have plus minus in your league or hits because he's pretty
for either of these guys.
non-existent in those categories. But I just give Goudreau the slight edge just because he kind of has, like a bit more of a pedigree too. Like we've seen him get over 100 points. So I think, in the right situation, I think he could do that again.
Yeah, I like that a lot. What do you see in Columbus there in terms of their? Maybe we'll talk about this later. But who gets center in that first line? Do you think Fantilli gets some run there?
If Jenner's healthy, I'd probably stick with Boone Jenner. I just think a lot of this, and from watching like Mike Babcock coach here for a long time, I don't think he trusts young players that much out of the gate. Like I can't see him giving Fantilli that much responsibility early on. I had this debate with somebody else a while back, like who was saying like they like Fantilli a lot more than like Bedard, just from strictly like a first year production standpoint, because he'll have better players to play with, and which I understood the logic behind it, but I don't see like Babcock sticking Fantilli on like power play 1 all the time necessarily, or like between Goudreau and Laine. So I'd still think even though like Bedard's roster is pretty bleak, I think I still take Bedard for 1 year anyway. But I think Fantilli is probably going to get sheltered a bit as he starts.
Yeah, as he should. I love that word bleak. That absolutely describes the Columbus Blue Jackets. It's freaking bleak over there. Oh my God. The man games. Oh my God. I mean, we're getting a little off topic here, but I love Werenski too. I think I'm excited about the Blue Jackets this season. Even Kent Johnson, like he doesn't really show out in the metrics that I like, but I mean, he shows out in some other metrics, and his talent is ridiculous. So I think there could be some regression there for them.
Yeah, Marchenko had like the Cy Young season last year. I don't know how many he had, like almost 20 something goals and like 8 or 10 assists or something like that.
I love that.
Yeah.
I want to see an extreme version of that. Like, I guess Chris Kreider sort of, but even more extreme. You know what I mean? Like 50 goals, 10 assists.
Yeah.
All right. That's sweet. Just set up shop, blue line in, have a Coke and a smile. We'll get you the puck, buddy.
Exactly.
All right. I digressed as I do. All right. You're taking Gaudreau, John Gaudreau. I like to call him John because, hockey commentators have ruined it for me. Or just call him Gaudreau. Don't call him Johnny Gaudreau. You ever notice that? It's like Johnny Gaudreau. Just say Gaudreau. There's no
some
other
some players have to have the first name too for some reason. Yeah.
Johnny. Yeah. I don't like that. All right, let's move on. I'm taking Kyrou here, but it's close. I'm doing this to kind of, have a little bit of a debate here because I think, honestly, the higher ceiling offensively is Gaudreau. There's no question there to me, but I want to make a case for Jordan Kyrou here because Kyrou is a guy in the mock drafts I've done. I'm also in some best ball leagues that I've been drafting, and he's falling to like past 100. St. Louis stinks. There's no question there. They're an active dumpster fire. All right. They're on fire currently. But this man got 37 goals last year. Like that's on that team, so that talk about bleak. St. Louis, Columbus, bleak. All right. It's like Russia over there in the winter. All right. That's no good. But yeah, I'm low key in on both these players this season at value. This said too, actually, before I go off on Kyrou, pick 60 for Kyrou or Gaudreau. Do you think that's a bit of a reach, or do you think that's kind of where these players should fall?
I think it's probably, if you're just doing points leagues, it's probably a slight reach, but I don't think it's too far off. Like Kyrou, again, he's if you're just basically points and shots, like he's fine. Like he's pretty much a point per game player, and well over 200 shots. Like he's a fine player. I think maybe you're seeing in some of those mock drafts you were doing, it might be, I don't know if it's what cats you had, but it might be just people looking at him and saying like outside of that he gives you absolutely nothing. Like there's some players that are average in things like hits and pims and whatnot. He's just he just absolutely offers nothing. I think 2 years ago I remember just my jaw dropped when I saw this stat. I think he had 6 hits in like over a full season like 2 years ago, which is like
just
incredible.
ridiculous. Yeah, actually, I'm looking at this right now. Yeah, that you're right. So in 2021, Jordan Kyrou, 6 hits.
You figure you just like bump into somebody more than 6 times, like over the course of like 80 games. But
yeah, buddy, at that level, you're actively avoiding people. All right, like what are you doing? Like just you go ahead. Like is he Canadian? Like is that just a Canadian thing? I don't know.
So I think he just gets a bad rep for that, and a lot of people just kind of overlook that. Hey, he's an easy like 70-point player. But.
Yep. Well, not to be outdone, Johnson Gaudreau in 2019, 70 games, 1 hit.
Oh, wow.
1.
That's fun. That's
how do you do that? I mean, for God's sake, man. I mean, that's the
I guess those stats are always subjective too, but yeah, that's down there. Wow.
That's shocking. That's shocking. 5 hits for John Gaudreau last season as well. So thank you, buddy, for your service. I don't. That's just wild stuff. All right. Anyways, I'll get back to Kyrou because I'm losing my mind here. But Gaudreau's going to be better next season, no doubt about that. I think he's probably closer to an 80-point guy. But like you said, 74 points on that team with what he had to work with. That's ridiculous because the man games lost for Columbus were just crushing. So he's going to be better. With Babcock there, it gives me a little bit of pause with the coaching changes because Gaudreau, like we're saying, is a notoriously soft player, and I'm not sure how he fits the mold with Babcock there. I mean, they don't really have a choice. Like this he's locked in for term there for money, and he's a first-time player, first power play, so I'm sure he's going to get that. But I just don't know what to expect really with Babcock coming in there. I don't think we'll ever see 100-point Gaudreau again. Like I said, 80 points seems reasonable to me, maybe 85 with a little headroom. But to me, like I said, I'm valuing goals. And Kyrou is just a player that, first off, he's slipping in drafts, as I said. But 37 goals last year, that's ridiculous. I think he could top 40 the next season. And I trust the advanced metrics in this case. Like, those things we look at here at Apples and Ginos, shots on goal per 60, individual Corsi for individual scoring chances 4 per 60. Gaudreau was 116 in shots, 101 in Corsi 4, and then 153rd in individual scoring chances, where Kyrou is actually 17th in the league in shots on goal per 60, 26th in individual Corsi 4, and 24th in chance generation. So that I kind of just lean that way. You know what I mean? That gives me a bit more, like I trust that. Gives me a little more peace of mind, right? So that's kind of why I would go with Gaudreau there, because I do think he has 40 goals in him, but I do think that Gaudreau is probably gonna, top him in points. Both are staples on the power play, but I'm putting a premium on goals. What do you think about that, Michael?
Yep, and I think your concern about Babcock is legitimate, and I thought about that too. But then I also figured like he kind of thrived under Daryl Sutter, who like if you can do that with Daryl Sutter, like he'll probably be okay with Babcock.
That's a great point, actually. I think that's comparable.
They're kind of similar demeanors anyway, coaching styles. So yeah,
grumpy old men, get off my lawn. I don't know. I call Daryl Sutter the grumpiest man on earth, and Brock Nelson, he's Daryl Sutter's son in my mind. I don't know. Just smile, boys. Come on, life is good. All right, now you're in the NHL. You made it to the show, boys. Okay, we got a few more picks here, buddy. Thank you so much for doing this. All right, the next pick we're looking at, we're in round 6, and we're in the market for a D-man. Pick 75. Sorry, Victor Hedman or Moritz Seider. What do you think?
I'm going with Seider. I think obviously a bit of a slower sophomore season for him, but I think I think when he was paired with Jake Wallman, he did pretty well last year. I think his struggles came when he was kind of like saddled with Sherratt for a good chunk of the year. I don't think that helped him at all. And I think Seider's a great, I know we're not talking so much about bangers, but hits and blocks combo for Seider is really good. So I like him for that. I think his points will bounce back. I mean, I think if you're going to be a little bit concerned about Seider. There's a lot more competition, I think, for power play time now. Like Petrie's there, Gostisbehere's there. So if he does continue to struggle a bit, he could maybe lose some time there. But I think he's probably going to get power play 1 still. And yeah, I think like Hedman obviously surpassed a little bit by Sergachev last year. And, he's getting older. We saw him a little bit banged up in the playoffs. I wonder if he's going to be one of those guys that like, I think he's going to age well. And I think he's going to be a great defenseman, but I wonder if his days of like being an elite fantasy defenseman are kind of winding down. Like he might just be one of those players that, just knows how to play and just kind of plays the last 7 or 8 years of his career as a really important player, but just not, an elite fantasy D-man. So I don't know. I just think he's trending maybe in a little bit of the wrong direction. So that's why I'd go with Seider.
Yeah. I mean, that all makes sense. For me, Hedman, the fact that they took him off power play 1, I mean, that's crazy. I did not see that happening, especially after like, what was his season? Like the previous season to that was something ridiculous.
He had like 85 points, right? Like 2 years ago. Yeah.
Career high, and then power play 2. All right. Thank you for your service, Victor Hedman.
John Cooper.
But obviously, Sergachev, he crushed on the power plays, no question.
Yeah.
Interesting piece, like power play share. Victor Hedman got 50%. Sergachev got like 49 or something. So they were kind of splitting it evenly, but Sergachev was the one that was more efficient, right? I think he had like 26 or 27 power play points. He was the one getting the bulk of those points. This all said, like, I can't believe, first off, how far Hedman is falling. Like Hedman at 75, huh? Yeah. That's. I mean, he's even Seider at this point. Like these two guys, we were looking at like the 3rd or 4th, 5th defenseman off the board last season, right?
Yeah,
not this season, right? We're looking at these guys around 6, maybe later. I've seen Hedman go around like 85, 90.
Yeah, I could see that. I think with Hedman too, like and the Lightning in general. We talked a little bit about Boston regressing. Like Tampa's slowly morphing into like a 1-line team, right? Like Killorn's gone there now. Like there's another 60 points, almost 30 goals out the door. Like so, at some point, if you're not on power play 1, like that second power play, might start getting less time, might be a little rougher, and I kind of, not to digress too much, but like I worry a little bit about Stamkos too. Like if they're not loading up that top line with him, Point, and Kucherov, like I wonder if Stamkos's numbers are going to take a bit of a hit this year because, I think Tampa's really, really getting crunched by the cap here.
Yeah, no, it's so valid. I mean, look at the way they ended the season, right? They sort of backed into the playoffs and then just fizzled out, first round. That was a bit of a surprise, kind of their, just the way they fell. And I think they've just played so much hockey over the past 4 seasons. Like, guys, take a break. Like, go golfing. Like, go golf. Just have a Coke and a smile. But to me, actually, Stamkos is an interesting one as well. I've looked him up a little bit. Like the big season he had 2 seasons ago, his main line mates were Anthony Cirelli and Killorn. So he did all his damage on that line at even strength. And then obviously the power play cooked, it's an elite power play there. But when he plays with Braden Point and Kucherov, that hasn't always been the most like productive he's been in fantasy, right? I just think there's more touches that need to go around to obviously they're both elite offensive players. So I think they should put Stamkos back on the second line and get somebody, Hagel played on the top line with Point and Kucherov before and did well there. Like, I think they got to even it out, but yeah, you're right. Like losing Ross Colton there, they got Tanner Jeannot. What are they going to do with him? Like we got to give this guy some minutes because you gave up the farm to get him and he's going to toil away on the, 3rd or 4th line and, 12 minutes a game. No, that's silliness.
Yeah. You have like, obviously it's hard to doubt them because of what they've done, but their bottom 6 now looks like pretty thin. Like
it's ugly. And to your point too, power play 2, what the hell? Spare parts. No. Yeah. Please get Victor Hedman off power play 2. All right. Don't do that to my boy Victor, but again, I digress, but I think that for me, I'm giving Hedman 1 more year. I think like he's earned that in my mind from the benefit of the doubt. Like, okay, I don't see how they can do this again. It didn't it worked fantasy wise, right? Sergachev got some points, but like, I don't know. I don't know the inner workings of the team, but how the hell do you keep this man off power play 1? It doesn't make any sense, right? Sergachev, great defenseman, but I've actually got Hedman ranked, 1 spot higher than Sergachev going into this year. but maybe that's a biased pick. I don't know, because I think it's absolutely true what you're saying. Like it could just be a switch just flipped, and now he's a different player now. He's not needed to be the offensive guy. Just eat those even strength minutes, penalty kill, like, because obviously he's an elite player in real life. Fantasy, like his best days might be behind him, and that sucks. Oh my God. But yeah, I think he'll take back power play 1, or at least a better percentage of it next season. That's my hope. And then Seider, like you said, they got Petrie there now. They got Ghost in the wings for power play 1, and the fact that they took him off power play 1 last season for Philip Hronik for a little bit, like that was just a bit concerning, right? I didn't see that coming. And obviously Seider's he's a young guy, and peripherally, what a unit. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So, we got to put some stock into that. It's like, he has some banger waiting in here. So this all said, I'm just yammering on. I'm taking Hedman because I think you have to. You got to take Victor Hedman for one more season. If, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Or no, what is it? You know the saying, all right? Shame on you if you fool me once, but shame on me if you fool me twice. So this would be shame on me if I take Victor Hedman and he, gets a 40-point season or something. I'll be like, okay, I was wrong on that one. But I'm taking Hedman all day. All right. But I like Seider too. And I hope he gets power play 1 because he's a beast. Like his highlight package, ridiculous, of his hits and things like that. Like,
it's crazy to think he's only, I don't know if he's like 20 or 21, but he's only played 2 years, right? Like he's going to get a lot better.
Yeah, and 2 full seasons. I love that too. When a young guy just comes in, 82 games. Like, this guy's a beast. So I'm excited for them. I think Detroit. I know Yzerman's been getting a lot of hate lately. Like, I think Detroit is better than they were last season. I like DeBrincat addition there. I think that makes him a lot better. And this guy's going to be a lot better. Ville Husso should be better. And I like Jeff Petrie too. He's a peripheral god. Get in my life, Jeff Petrie.
Yeah, I think it's we'll see. Like there could be a lot of turnover in that division. Like we talked about Boston, Tampa. I think Ottawa's coming up, Detroit's coming up. I think Buffalo could be like this year's New Jersey, like how New Jersey was last year. They just totally basically came from obscurity to like 100-point season. Like I think the Sabres could be that. So yeah, we'll see what happens in that division. Yeah,
Boston obviously gonna be hard pressed to. Do we say they're even hard pressed to make the playoffs? Nah, it's still the same coach.
I've been doubting them for like the last 5 years. I keep saying like last year, I remember going into the season, I said, okay, Marchand's going to miss like the first month. McAvoy might miss the first 2+ months. Like this has to be the year where they fall off and they just go out and have like one of the best seasons in history. So I'm done doubting them. That's why I went with Pastrnak earlier too. So we'll see though. All logic points to them falling back, but
yeah, you know what? I think that's valid though. Like I was the same way. Like I got Jeremy Swayman and Linus Ullmark last season in drafts at a stupid value, like 180th overall. I'm taking Linus Ullmark. What?
Yeah, Ullmark wasn't even drafted in I remember checking it. Like when he started playing well, he was only drafted in like 50% of leagues really. And Swayman was the guy that was picked more than Ullmark. So
I think he still is this season. I think people are taking Swayman over Ullmark. It's kind of a difficult goaltending situation, plus the team situation. Like we gotta fade him, don't we? I don't know. Not the top line. I actually drafted Marchand in a mock draft I did recently, and it felt weird. But it's such value. Like I got him in like the 5th round or something. Like Marchand in the 5th round, he's gonna get probably 30 power play points. You can't wait any longer. You got to get these guys on your team. So, but yeah, I think they might be hard pressed to make the playoffs. But if I had to guess, I'd say they're going to be there. I don't know. All right, I digressed. I'm taking Hedman. There we go. All right, this next one here. This is a real tough one for me. This is a Sophie's choice. All right, I don't want to choose between my children, but it's round 9. It's pick 130, and we got to get some beefers here. All right, we need a center. We need some beefers. Vincent Trocheck, Vinny Tro, or Papa Boone Jenner. Come on, what are you doing? Who are you taking here, buddy?
I'm going Trocheck. Once again, I think we talked about injuries earlier. I love Jenner, and I think he could be in a great spot there between Gaudreau and Laine. But yeah, again, he's a guy that's injured a lot. Tough to really count on him. But yeah, he's tremendous category coverage if he's healthy. Trocheck, I think, is again, pretty much gives you everything you could want. And one thing I think is kind of sneaky interesting with the Rangers this year is that Blake Wheeler addition. I wonder if he plays right wing with Panarin and Trocheck. And I think it's weird saying going to New York. like the pressure is off. But I think for Wheeler, it might actually, I think being the captain of like a Canadian team is pretty tricky. And I think going there, he might have like just not much pressure. And I think just for points leagues, he might be able to get like 60 points there, Wheeler. And I think that could actually help Trocheck quite a bit. So I like Trocheck.
You damn right you like Trocheck. All right. The man is a legend. All right. Yeah. We don't just like him. Well, I love him. All right. I have a lot of love for that man. So I think first off, I agree with you on Blake Wheeler. I think that's a really nice piece there. He's an upgrade to, I think they were playing with Lafreniere last season.
It's so thin on the right wing for them. Yeah.
Yeah. So Blake Wheeler, great pickup. And I agree with you as well. Like less pressure, right? He went from the captain to like having the captaincy stripped, which stinks, to playing for Rick Bonehead, buddy. Put Ehlers on the ice, you ding dong. All right. But yeah, I think Blake Wheeler's in a really nice spot. He can play just sheltered offensive minutes. He's not going to be required to do much else. So I like that. But and I love Vinny Tro, but I'm taking Boone Jenner. I got to make a case for Boone Jenner. Caveat: Trocheck is the right answer. All right, we got it. You got to take Vincent Trocheck here in a points league, in a Cats league. Ooh, I don't know. I like Boone Jenner. That's a little closer to me, but I am going to make a case for Boone Jenner here in a points league. All right. First, I think the coaching change could help Boone Jenner because I think this is going to be a guy that Babcock's going to be like, yeah, buddy, you played over 20 minutes last season. How about 25? Get your ass out there and you get the business. All right. Let's just grind this man into the ground. But yeah, he averaged over 20 minutes last season. Deployment was insane. So, it's a blessing and a curse getting a new coach there because I do think he'll work with Babcock, but also he could fall right off. Babcock could be like, no, we're not giving you 20 minutes. We're going to do something else. Right. So that's a little bit of an iffy. That's a kind of, scratch one for Trocheck there, but Boone Jenner needs that deployment, right? He needs 20 minutes to be relevant, like we're talking about here. But he does it all in any minutes that he plays, right? So I'm hoping that he gets power play one. Daily Faceoff has Adam Fantilli in there. No, I don't think so. I agree with what you said. I think that, it's too early for that guy to get in there. Like, let's bring him up the right way, right? Still some decent players there on power play too. So I think that's fine. But yeah, Boone Jenner on power play one. I think he should have a career high in power play points. Like he only got 11 last season in 68 games. That should be better, right? Because, full season of Laine, Werenski, right? They're going to score more goals. I was excited about the Jackets last season. They stunk for injury purposes, and I'm excited about them again this year. So we'll see what happens. But Boone Jenner, when healthy and getting the minutes, I had this last season, and this is where I just turned to like Boone Jenner love, is once I kind of put this all together. He's a legit 250 shot, 100 hit, 90 to 100 block guy in a full season. He could do that. That's insane, right? That's Brady Tkachuk crap. I mean, but Tkachuk doesn't block. So this guy right here is a freaking unicorn. All right. He's a beautiful man, a long-necked beauty. So that's just insane. So any guy that can do that, I'm all in on that. I want it to happen this year, but I am biased. I think if Trocheck does get power play one in New York, then the decision is a really easy one. You got to get Trocheck there because he has access to a ridiculous power play. But if he gets pushed to PP2, which he might, I mean, Daily Faceoff has Blake Wheeler in the power play one spot there. So we'll see. But both guys are beefers. You got to have both these guys on your team. Actually, Michael, in some of I'm doing best ball drafts. I'm in like 4 best ball drafts right now. And I've got Boone Jenner and Vincent Trocheck on 3 of those teams together.
I'm not surprised.
Buddy. Oh, man. And I got him at value. I think I got Tro at like, I'm getting him around like 100 to 110 and then Boone Jenner at like 150. Yes, please. All right. It's
part of like the double-edged sword with some of these guys, right? Like the guys that are really good in like banger leagues, of course they often get hurt because just the way they play, right? And I think Jenner's one of those guys that like everybody loves. You look at his category coverage in fantasy and you'd love to draft him, but then he's he might miss 10 to 15 games a year. But
he will. It's unfortunate. You know what? Rest up, King. All right. Just whatever you need to do that. But one of these days you got to play 82 because I want to see this trifecta of shots, blocks, and hits. Oh my God. Lovely, man. All right, that's fine. This is the last one, Michael. I appreciate your time. Thank you for your service, my man.
No worries.
All right. Okay. It's last one we're doing here. It's the 0G round. All right, Michael, you have appropriately faded goalies until round 12. Congratulations to you. All right. It's pick 150. Who are you taking? Phil the Thrill Gustafson or Vitek Vanacek of the New Jersey Devils? What do you say?
This was a tough one for me. I'm going with Gustafson, but I think it's probably a lot closer than people might think. I think if you look at like Gustafson's numbers last year, you'd think he'd be a lot higher on goalie rankings lists and stuff because he just had like such a great year. But if you look at his like total sample size, I think he's only played like 60 something NHL games.
Right.
I think Fleury's probably still more of a factor there than people think. You know, he got in some playoff games too. I don't see them just making Fleury in like an exclusive backup. I think he's probably going to play closer to like 50% of the games. So that's why like I'm a little hesitant on Gustafson, but I'm also kind of worried about Vanacek. You know, he didn't have the best finish to the season. Akira Schmid's kind of waiting there to maybe steal starts. I kind of look at that maybe being like almost like a Stuart Skinner, Jack Campbell situation from last year. Like if Vanacek struggles, maybe Schmid can steal that net. So I'd probably go with Gustafson with a lot of concerns, but I'd probably take a risk at that point in the draft for sure. If you're getting him around 150, that's probably good value. The one other thing I should mention about the Wild, I think they have like almost 15 million of dead cap next year from those buyouts. At some point, that's going to catch up to them, and they're not going to be as good of a team, and they're going to probably lose more games, which is going to hurt. You know, I think goalies take the biggest hit on that when your team starts struggling. So that's something I have in the back of my mind too about the Wild. But yeah, I give the slight edge to Gustafson with all that said.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. I mean, I was glad that they locked this man up though for like good term, good value. Like, but yeah, dead cap. Maybe they're giving out contracts over there. I don't know. Maybe we can get in on that. You know, I don't need a mill. Give me a couple hundy. Give me a couple hundy thou. All right, just put me on the payroll. I'll do stuff. I don't know. I'll podcast for you. Yeah, that show ain't no good. Yeah, we're living in cap hell over here in Vancouver. So, you know, whatever. That Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Oh man. That's brutal. And we were paying Luongo for I don't know how long. It's so freaking brutal, these buyouts, you know.
That's what I mean. And like a lot of teams have a couple million. Like the Leafs had that with Kessel for a long time. They had a million or so on trade retention. And like, yeah, like
worth it. Definitely worth
it. Well, the thing is, like, you think of how important like a couple million is on the cap, and you're talking like 15 million. Like they're operating with like, you know, almost like 25% less cap than every other team, right? And I don't know how much it'll, because I look at their roster and it's not like vastly different from last year. So like they might be okay, but I think at some point, like as teams start to spend more, like it's going to catch up to them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm not sure that it affects them so much this year. Although if there's any injuries or like at trade deadline time, like they're handcuffed. They can't do anything. Right. So they can't make their team really better. So hopefully the team they have is good enough. And they might be, right. I like Minnesota this year. I'm taking Gustafson too. We got to agree on one, and I'm taking Gustafson. But yeah, like you said, it's close. I think we're looking at Gustafson, who's the better actual goalie, and then Vanacek, who to me is the better kind of team situation.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So he's a great example of like a goalie on a really good team. That's going to get you wins for sure. And he's going to get on a few hot streaks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just in terms of like just some metrics that I like to look at team wise, like rate stats, scoring chances against, goals against, and shots against. I like to sort of use that to just see what's happening with the team, right? And as far as New Jersey, scoring chances against per 60, they were fourth in the league, so fourth best, right? Goals against, they were eighth best, and shots against, they were fifth. So that's a nice place to be for a goalie, right? And then in contrast, Minnesota, pretty good as well. 15th in the league in shots against, 5th in goals against, and 7th in scoring chances against. So that says to me, like, we got a better goalie here, right? They're 15th in shots against, but 5th in goals against, right? So obviously Gustafson was playing really well. His goals saved above average was stupid. I think it was second in the league to who led, I think Sorokin or something. I don't know. But who the hell led? Oh, Omar. What am I talking about? So I just like Gustafson as a goalie better. But that said, like, you got Akira Schmid in the wings there. And first off, he's going on the all-name team. Akira Schmid? Buddy. Oh, man. I'm thinking of changing my name legally to Akira Schmid. Middle name. I guess I got to be Blake. But Yeah, it's I actually think that's much more of a goalie controversy than is sort of being reported, like because of what we saw in the playoffs, right? And also like Akira Schmid is basically Philip Gustafson 2 years ago, in my
Yeah.
opinion. You know what I
And
mean?
I
Like,
think I agree. And I think like some of the points you just made about how good New Jersey was like defensively, that like, yeah, you might be thinking, okay, that's great if I have Vanacek, but that's also like a good recipe to where like if Vanacek does struggle, they can plug a Schmid in there and he's probably
yeah,
going to be pretty insulated, right? And he'll probably do well and he might be
yeah,
able to steal that job. So like that would be a slight concern if you had Vanacek. So
yeah, me too. And I agree. I think it's Gustafson's net in Minnesota, but it's 1A, 1B. You know what I
yeah,
mean? It might be like 55-45 kind
yeah,
of situation there, which I'm fine with. Like, as long as he's giving you the good numbers, like you got to get another goalie as well. Get a workhorse. Like someone I've seen falling in drafts like a rock is Jacob Markstrom.
I thought you were gonna say Markstrom. I was ranking him today. I've got him around 120. But
Yeah.
yeah, he is because he's gonna give you 60 starts probably, right?
And like these metrics I'm talking about, Calgary was great in these metrics last year. You know what wasn't great about Calgary? They couldn't convert
They
worth
had
a
a lot of
crap.
bad luck. Yeah, they had a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
posts. Like they had a lot of bad luck last year. Yeah.
You know, and Markstrom was crap. There's no question about
Yeah, he
that.
was.
Like first off, these numbers were great for Calgary. Like they're a good defensive environment. Just Markstrom played like crap all year, right? But that's 1 year removed from a Vezina nomination. So
Yeah, I
you don't
think
just
like I agree. Like where I would be slightly concerned is like Sutter's gone, and Sutter was very loyal to Markstrom.
Mhm.
So now, if, like Markstrom, they were just throwing him back out there last year, no matter what he did. Now,
Yeah,
if he has a bad like 5 or 6 game stretch, do they give Dustin Wolf a shot, who's been incredible in the AHL?
yeah,
I think he might, and I think he actually might end up playing there this year. That I think they still could move Vladar, but we'll
yeah,
see. So I think like there's probably not as much loyalty to Markstrom at this point with the new coach. So that's a concern. But
yeah.
I think any goalie, there's not that many goalies that play 60 games anymore, right? So any goalie like that, that's why Binnington always is rostered. Even how bad he is and how bad the Blues have been the last year, like people still grab Binnington because he plays like 2-3 games a week, right? And
Yeah.
when you get into January, February in most fantasy leagues, like you just need a goalie that's going to play sometimes, right? And yeah,
John
they'll definitely do
Gibson.
that. Yeah,
There
there
you
you
go.
go. Right. So
Get him in your life. No, don't do that. All right. But yeah, I like Markstrom a lot, and I legit picked him up in a pretty high quality. Like I did a mock draft here live with a bunch of listeners from Apples and
yeah,
Ginos, and I got Markstrom at like 180.
yeah,
180.
yeah,
This man is going to play like even if he plays 50. Like I honestly don't think Vladar is going to take his minutes. I think Dustin Wolf is probably the guy to
yeah,
come in to do something, but he's never played up here. So I see that coming probably maybe next season, but I think this
yeah,
season coming up, Markstrom is going to have a chance to prove himself, and I think he will. He's not as bad as he showed last season. There was something going on, like whether
yeah.
it's an injury or personal, or Daryl Sutter being the biggest dingus on earth, giggity. Um, like get the hell out of my sight. I think it's going to be a good situation in Calgary. I'm actually excited. But we're talking about Gustafson and Vanacek, and I'm taking Gus there all day. All
Yeah.
right.
And I think too, like the lower you draft a player, the less they have to do to give you value, right? So that's what
Yeah.
I look like. Not to go too far back to the Flames, but like I look at Huberdeau like that. I
Mm-hmm.
love Huberdeau this year as a guy that you're going to get maybe outside like the top 100, maybe even around 150. Who,
Silliness.
yeah,
Yeah.
who had 55 points last year. Obviously, you're looking at him like, oh, he's a 100-point player, but maybe even if he just gets back to 70, a 70
Yeah.
point guy you're drafting around 150, that's incredible value, right? So, same thing with Markstrom. They don't have to do that much when you're drafting them that late.
Yeah, because if especially Markstrom and goalies, like this is the 0G thing, right? You draft them late, and if they stink, you say, "See you later, bye
Yeah.
bye." You kick them to the curb, no problem. Give me Dustin Wolf on my team. All right, there we go. Because I don't think there's a lot of people drafting Dustin Wolf right now. You can probably just pick him up later. But buddy, that is it for the battle. We'll have to look at this, later on and see who actually won. I don't know. Maybe we'll put it out to the listeners. I don't know where I'm going with this. All right, you clearly won, Michael. All right, you're the champion. I don't know what's going on here. All right. Buddy, while I have you here, I'd be remiss to ask if I didn't ask you, and kind of put you on the spot here, but are there a couple players, even just one player that you're low-key excited about next season that may not be on people's radars? Someone like a sleeper?
Um,
What do you got? Anybody?
I've got two. One guy I love who finished really strong is Owen Tippett. I think in Philly, another category filler, was great for blocks, great for hits, goal. You know, he had really productive season on a bad team. I don't think he's gonna. He had a strong second half. I don't think he's gonna be targeted too much. And one off the board name I keep mentioning on a lot of pods this summer is Jonathan Drouin. I think a big gamble, but I could see him playing with McKinnon and Rantanen. They have sort of a connection from Halifax. You know, obviously big risk. You know, how much is he going to play? But I think if I'm, you know, in the last couple of rounds of my draft, I think that's a guy I'd take a swing on.
Yeah, it's a great flyer pick because, yeah, you if he doesn't get top line, see you later, my man.
Yeah.
But boy, Drouin has been so bad. Like he's been such a bust to this point in his career, hasn't he? So this would be nice. I think where there's smoke, there's fire. Like, you know, McKinnon helped, you know, recruit this man over to the Avs, right?
Yeah.
So I think he'll probably get a look there. You know who I'm hoping gets that spot though? Ross Colton.
Oh yeah.
Oh baby, that beef or that beefcake, that you know, roast beef sandwich with cheese. All right, he's a great player. I love me some Ross Colton. I love picking him up. Actually, a guy that I'm excited about this season too. I'll get your thoughts on this guy, Andre Burkowski. Do you have any thoughts on him? Because I'm picking him up at like pick 200. It's just, you know, I think people are sleeping on this man. They forgot he's going to get power play 1 there. He was injured last season.
Yep, I think he's a good example of, like, you know, a lot of times when guys miss a lot of time with injuries, or they miss like the second half of the season, a lot of times they get overlooked in next year's drafts, or they get maybe ranked lower than they should be. And yeah, I think he's a good example of that. I like the Kraken. Like I like, you know, I love teams in fantasy that, you know, like they just play like 6-5 games every night. I think the Kraken are one of those. I think they've got a lot of players that, you know, they spread the scoring around, but I think there's a lot of guys there that can be like productive late round picks for you on that team.
Yeah, the Kraken are so weird. They remind me of like a Moneyball. That it's like they're playing that Moneyball. Like, okay, we need like XGA/60. Get this player over here. You're like, what? You know?
Yeah, it was like outside of like Jared McCann and Vince Dunn, nobody had really like a season that would really kind of turn your head. Yeah. It was just like a lot of decent players, but
even those guys,
4th in scoring, I think, league scoring last year or something.
Yeah, yeah, ridiculous. But it was with obscene efficiency.
Yeah,
like, I mean, I don't know how that's sustainable, but I wouldn't be surprised if they come close to it. Like, I think there's something going on there. They're well coached and they've got a good mix of players in there. So, you know, we'll see. But yeah, for God's sake, give Jared McCann some more minutes. I think he averaged like just over 16 minutes. The guy got 40 goals. Like, can we get a 20-minute Jared McCann, please? Who else are you putting out there?
Yeah, they really spread out the ice time there. So
I don't know. They're professionals. I'm sitting in my basement. All right. So that's fine. Buddy, I appreciate having you here so much. I really appreciate that. While I got you, why don't you tell the folks where we can find you on the socials and what's going on with you currently?
Yeah, so just follow me on Twitter at Amato_Mike. You can find my work at Sportsnet and Goalie Post, and the Goalie Post app is now out for iOS. Download and give it a rating.
Oh my God. Hell yeah. It's that Goalie Post app. It's a tidy piece of business. All right. It's got goalie rankings. Season starts will be there. It's going to, or once the season starts, it'll be updating the starters. So that's nice. You got a schedule tab, all that stuff. Very functional. Looks great. Michael, solid work. All right. You are a dang legend, my man. Has anyone told you that before?
Only a couple times. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You know, and you're modest too. And that's what I really like about you. All right. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to your writings this season. Always fun to have you on the show. So I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We're going to have some more ADP battles coming at you. It's going to be tons of fun with some legends like this man right here. Thank you for listening, everybody. Celebrate your day. Bye for now.